I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Michaela Giuliani. Is she here? Mr. Bono?
Here.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Holmes?
Present.
Mrs. Perez?
Here.
Mr. Rivera?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Mr. Sobrano?
Present.
Mrs. Cataspati?
Present. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following, announcing time, place, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Vista Bueno, the Clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. Would Barcy and Wallace Middle School students come up for the flag salute? Thank you. Mr. Muster,
Yes.
is there a resolution for executive session?
There is. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the City of Vineland School District will convene an executive session for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12. Discussion is about the employment matters and any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise her ethical duties as a lawyer.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono,
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana,
Yes.
Mrs. Cataspati.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Yano, are there any special presentations?
Yes, there are. Excuse me. Sorry for my voice. We have 3 presentations. We're going to begin with Mr. Justin Adams, VHS principal. He will provide an overview of the 9th grade academy, along with Executive Director of Curriculum, Suzette DeMarchi, and our Director of Special Operations and Projects, Ishmael Bermudez.
Good evening, Mrs. Cataspati, Mr. Sobrana, Vineland Board of Ed members, Mr. Yano, and the community. Tonight, we will provide an overview of Vineland High School's 9th grade academy, which is set to launch in September. In just a moment, Mr. Bermudez and I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Adams, but first, I wanted to share a rationale behind the 9th grade academy. We recognize that the transition from middle school to high school can be very challenging for many of our students. The 9th grade academy at Vineland High School will provide a structured and very supportive environment to ease the adjustment for our students. As always, we will prioritize academics, social and emotional development, while also fostering school spirit and student engagement. The academy will help our incoming 9th graders build confidence, form meaningful connections, and establish a strong foundation for our students' high school career.
Good evening. My name is Mr. Bermudez, and I'm going to speak to the vision of our 9th grade academy. So the 9th grade academy will be housed at the VHS North Tanner building. There was some careful discussion about what would be the most appropriate location, and so after meeting with Mr. Adams and his team, we decided on utilizing the first floor of the building. There will be some opportunities where students will travel from one building to the next, but those are going to be more limited, and it's going to be dictated by the courses that those students are taking. The focus of the 9th grade academy is on that academic preparedness and just making sure that students are going to be prepared for the advanced courses that they'll be taking in the future. And our vision is that there is going to be a dedicated staff, be it administration, teaching staff, support staff, that is going to be committed to helping students in that success and that personal growth. One of the things I did want to share just briefly as well is I had an opportunity earlier this morning to visit the North Building. Mr. Adams and his administrative team had arranged an academic pep rally, and it was beyond inspiring to see the students engaged in that sort of way, to celebrate the academics within the building. And I had a chance to actually speak with one of the staff members, and she had disclosed to me that she remembered that we came in to visit with them to talk about the academy and how she was excited about the future and the opportunities that were there. So it was nice to hear that, and it's looking forward to the great work that Mr. Adams and his team is going to do for our 9th graders at VHS. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Adams.
All right, thank you to Ms. DeMarchi and Mr. Bermudez. So our goal for our 9th grade academy is very simple. We are recognizing where the student need is, whether it be academically, socially, or emotionally, and our goal is to equip our students with all of the tools that they need to succeed and to have a successful 4-year tenure at Vineland High School. Some staffing updates we have. I will be assigned to the 9th grade academy as I oversee 9th and 10th grade on the Dennis Tanner campus. Mr. Hall, Mr. Lapsley, and Ms. Craig will be the assistant principal supports. For guidance, all guidance counselors will be involved in scheduling, planning, meeting with students, checking connects, and that team of guidance counselors will be led by Mr. Bernhardt as the point person and Mrs. Wren as well. Our social workers that will be part of the team are Mr. Martin, who recently started, and he has hit the ground running, so I'm very excited to see what he can bring to the table with a fresh start next year, and Mr. Scanlon will assist us as well. As of right now, I sent an email out to our staff last week, and I already received about 90 responses back just to gauge their interest. You know, some of our staff members have taught the same subject, the same prep and the same lunch for 20, 25 years. So I just let them know at this time, if you want to shake things up, if you want to join the 9th grade academy, if you want to change up what you're teaching, just to let us know. And Mr. Lapsley and I will be scheduling new schedules for all staff, but our primary focus is going to be on the 9th grade academy. And we've received a lot of positive feedback, just expressing gratitude for saying, thanks for asking what I want to do next year. So our staff members, I'm hoping, feel like they have a stake in our school year, a little more so than ever before. Our room utilization piece, that's going to be the longest or the most arduous process. We have 1,400 to 1,500 students in our building at any given time, but we have limited space that we're going to have to be creative in using. One other thing that we would like to do at the direction of Ms. Fiore, our media specialist, is to start a STEM room where kids just get to come in within their regular classroom throughout the day or throughout their lunch periods to work on science, math, technology, engineering. There are so many advances in AI, 3D printers, and we want to give our students all of the tools that they possibly may need to be successful, not only in high school, but in their careers as well. And then, as always, this is a new program. This is something that we have tried in the past, but not quite to this degree. So assignments are tentative right now. We are going to work through it and just kind of review as we need. Our class schedule is not going to change much at all. So with the new change of the 9th grade academy, it was decided within our various meetings that it's best to keep our schedule as is for right now. I know we brought up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 schedules to see what would best suit us, but we figured with all of the change coming, with all of the teacher movement coming, with all of the reassignment coming, that keeping things status quo for our students and our staff would be the best direction to go. The biggest change that students will see academically is within their course offerings. So we have really streamlined what we are going to offer specifically to our 9th graders as we've noticed their gaps in achievement or as we've noticed their challenges in achievement. So as you can see, here are Core 4 plus Health and PE. Everyone will take an ELA, every student will take a math, every student will take a science, social studies, and a health and PE. The big difference with our social studies program and our social studies, math, and our ELA program is that we have eliminated advanced courses in hopes that we challenge students more, right? We don't want students to settle for that advanced when they can be an honor student. And we want those honor students to become AP students because we have well over 30 AP offerings, and that essentially is free money and free tuition to their colleges of choices if they're able to pass that AP exam at the end of the year. So that is going to be a big goal of ours and a big push of ours. If you look at social studies, you can see instead of honors, they have a pre-AP, just kind of an introduction to an AP course, just as an exposure to them to, again, challenge them. When it comes to our electives at the Tanner campus will remain the same. We have our world language electives, we have our visual and performing arts electives, and our CTE, our career and tech electives. Some of our CTE courses that are offered are 4-year opportunities, just as our world languages are and our fine and performing arts. So we still want to give that exposure to all of our students that are interested in that. They will be able to choose from 2 of these elective offerings after their Core 4 plus their health and PE is chosen. The caveat that is different going into 25-26 as compared to this year Our course offerings that are at our 11-12 building, our Celta building, will now need administrative approval for students to travel. All of these courses that are listed are 4-year courses, or it is a stepping stone and a prerequisite to a 4-year course. So our Dance Academy, which I cannot say enough about our dance team, our marching band, our arts programs, they are absolutely phenomenal kids. But our Dance Academy, our marching band, those electives are still going to be offered to students, but there will be a slight difference, and I'll get into that on the next slide. And then if you look down at our CTE, our Intro to Ag is one of our programs that kind of falls within our FFA program that will be offered to students, and again, amazing opportunity for our kids. All right, some of the benefits that we have of the 9th Grade Academy. We are looking to benefit social development for our students. So we want our students not only to be academically sound, but we want them to be able to relate to somebody. We want to be able to build a connection and build a bridge from school to home that is oftentimes fragmented throughout the years, right? We see a ton of participation in elementary school. We see quite a bit in middle school, and then high school happens, and then something happens. So our goal of this 9th Grade Academy is just to get that development back and to set our foundation for not only our students, but our parents as well. We're also looking for improved retention rates, and we know with a firm foundation in 9th grade, students are successful. The students that earn their 20 credits or more have a much higher propensity of graduation in 4 years versus graduating in 5 years. And then lastly, our transitions. We have anywhere between 1 and 200 students transitioning between buildings every period, and that's a loss of instructional time. So it takes about 7 minutes, 8 minutes on a kind of a crowded day. It's kind of like merging onto I-95 sometimes. So we want to reduce that transition and really increase that seat time. If you miss 3 minutes a day, you are well above a handful of weeks that you've missed out of class. So we want to improve that time. Some of our benefits, and we saw some of this today to what Mr. Bermudez alluded to, we're going to have additional school spirit for our freshmen. Historically, we have had our freshmen kind of prove it and earn it to us and show their maturity before we allowed them to just show it right off the jump. So we're going to start in August. Our tentative date for our freshman orientation is going to be August 18th. It's going to be one day with a 30-minute overlap so students can commingle for that half hour. We're going to have some activities planned for them as well. And then we're going to bring them back for an open house. Our freshman orientation day, for any parents or board members that haven't been to it, is packed. It's 3 hours of nonstop start to finish. There is really no time in between to go off of our agenda. So that open house will give students a chance to come back, meet their teachers, take a tour of the building, ask questions, reach out to guidance, make connections with our administrators, so forth and so on. We're also working on just building connections through schedule optimization. So like Mr. Bermudez said, we will have downstairs will be all of 9th grade, upstairs will be all of 10th grade, and those students, after I met with our Genesis president, said that we can optimize the schedule to really reduce travel time and increase that seat time. And then we are going to attempt to link classes. Last year, I sent out an email to our staff. We had 21,900 and some odd individual requests from students. So it's like a massive puzzle. And then in August, we get thrown puzzle pieces that don't necessarily fit, and we're told make it work. So we are going to try to link some classrooms together so students develop that sense of community. And then kickoff events. Today's pep rally, yesterday's pep rally was phenomenal. Our ROTC always shows up and shows out for our kids. Our marching band, our cheerleaders, our advisors, our class officers did an excellent job. Mr. Hall and Mr. Lapsley held everything down, so any credit that I receive, I take none of it and give it to all of them because they worked their butts off the last month to get this going. And to the board members and our central administrative team that came, we definitely appreciate it. Our teachers notice, our kids notice when you are present. Some of the courses that may replace an elective course. So we have noticed throughout the last few years, specifically from COVID, that we have achievement gaps. And what we've done with it through ASP money and federal funding is we've tried to infuse technology, try to recreate the classroom, and we've seen that has worked in some instances, but that doesn't always work. So with our experience as a collective whole, with the whole committee that kind of created the ninth grade academy, we noticed we're struggling in a handful of areas. Math definitely is one area we're struggling in. ELA is another area we are struggling in. And then we are bringing back a class that was successful in freshman seminar. So if we go over our pre-algebra and math classes, these classes are replacement classes to a student's elective. So instead of taking a world language or a CTE, those fun classes, we are giving our students those skills that they need, those foundational skills they need to graduate. We want our kids to have fun, right? We want them to enjoy coming to school, but we also want to create an academic student that graduates in 4 years with no failed classes. So these two math courses will supplant an elective course if chosen. Students still will have the opportunity to take an additional elective if they're allowed in their schedule, and we will have conversations with parents all throughout the summer as these students are identified. So 3 sections each of pre-algebra and math. We have 3 sections of seminar, which essentially is just it's essentially a cheat sheet of how to succeed in high school. So it's going to set students up with how to make appointments and guidance, how to study, how to take a crazy thing called Cornell Notes, which was drilled into my head in school. So it's just going to make the student or give the students more tools in their tool bin that they can pull from throughout all of their classes, that they can pull from emotionally and socially. And then our last class is our close read, which we will have 3 sections of as well. Currently, we have a close read section right now, and we are identifying students that are 2 to 3 grade levels below where they should be. So if they're still in that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade reading level, some of those students are taking the close read, and it has already paid off. We have 16 total students, I believe, enrolled in that, and we are seeing significant growth with them. And then the big question is, how do we measure this, right? We're putting time into this, we're putting money into this, we're putting effort into this, we're putting resources into this. So we're going to really measure it in we're going to have metrics that measure it with 2 guiding questions. The first guiding question being is, how is the ninth grade academy measured? And then what does the ninth grade academy's long and short-term accountability look like? I preach to our students all of the time. If I say, take your hood off, well, everybody else is doing it. And I say, everybody speeds on 55. Doesn't make it right. So if I'm preaching to our students accountability, Mr. Hall, Mr. Lapsley, Ms. Craig, Ms. Arena has filled in for us as well. If they are preaching accountability, I'm going to hold myself accountable. So we will have 4 times throughout the year where we compare our data. We are going to compare attendance data and academic data using just climate and culture data that we already run as it is in Genesis. We have a pretty good database that we can collect from anything and then disaggregate as needed. The other thing that we are going to talk about is, or we will gauge, is our program success and sustainability. So looking at our close read, our math lab, our pre-algebra, and our freshman seminar, those courses that we are looking to really raise the bar for our students and then meet them where they are to get them to where we need them to be, those results will not be seen until 2029. So this cannot be a one-year thing. It has to be a long-term goal if we are going all in with it. And if it's not, we're wasting a lot of time. So those data points we will receive initially, but those final results aren't going to be seen until the class of 2029 when we can compare those 4- and 5-year graduation rates. 4- and 5-year graduation rates weigh heavily on our annual school plan. Our annual school plan depends on funding. So there's a lot of different variables that add in here. And then the last measurement, which would be a graduation requirement, would be the NJGPA. We would compare this year's NJGPA to next year's NJGPA all the way through 28, 29. So we have those short-term comparisons of, did it boost our attendance this year? Is our discipline down? Is the climate of our students when we send out student surveys, do they feel safe at school? Do they feel seen at school? Do they feel heard at school? Do they feel like they have somebody to go to? So those short-term kind of check and connects will help us see that initial data, and then the long-term in 2029. It seems like a long time from now, and I'll probably have a lot more gray hairs. But I think it will be worth it if we wait it out. And then this is kind of what we have done and what we still have to go. I do apologize. The red didn't come. I tried to use red and gray. All right, guys? The red didn't come off as good as it should, but it looks great on the computer. So our Genesis coding, which was the singular most important step, if we don't have the back end of Genesis coded, none of this works for course selection. That is complete. Our course selection guide, Ms. DeMarchi and our supervisors, and I have to give a shout out to her and our supervisors. I have seen them at Vineland High School more than I think I've seen my own family some days, so I do appreciate them coming out and really supporting it. That is completed. Our written end and our back end of scheduling is still in progress. We have ins and outs trackers, which essentially is a teacher retiring? Who are we replacing them with? How are we going to replace that? That's something that we discuss with our personnel department. And then our new course assignments. We did have our 8th grade visits that happened last week, and a shout out to all of our middle school principals. Your kids were phenomenal. At the visit, they brought some energy. They asked some really, really good questions about 9th Grade Academy and about programs overall. And I appreciate that because it seems like they want to get involved. And we know that involved students, not just in the classroom, but from an extracurricular standpoint, are successful students. And you will see that when one of our student class officers speaks today. And then kind of what is next? We are continuing our meetings within our own building with VHS amongst myself and my APs, and then we are continuing meetings with Central as well. We've had 17 that I can count, but I'm sure there's a handful more that we have had that I may have lost count of. But I have 17 on my calendar as of right now, and then I've brought our staff in as well. So if a staff member has a question about the 9th Grade Academy, if they say, well, I kind of want to teach math lab, but what is it about? My door is open at all times. My staff knows that, my students know that, and I'm trying to build that rapport with our parents so that they know my door is open at all times. The big piece here is budgeting, right? Success comes down to finances sometimes. So 25, 26, our budget is good. We have it all situated. 26, 27, if our 3 courses work for close read and we see success, that's going to affect about 10% of our students. I want 100% of our students, right? So I may ask for more and more and more money. But I'm also reasonable in understanding that we don't have money that grows on trees. But if it works and our data supports it, it's definitely something where I'm going to have to become kind of innovative and flexible in how our budgeting process goes, using some of our ASP money, our state money, our federal money to move things around a bit to reach more students. So within 2 years, if we're able to fully staff a math lab, a close read, and those total 4 courses, we're looking at 25% of our students, which is a massive jump compared to what 24, 25, 26 is looking like. Our course selection is underway. It began February 3rd at the middle schools. At the high school, Mr. Bernhardt is leading the way with our guidance staff going into classes with paper copies, which is kind of a foreign thing, and they're asking students to fill things out on paper and pencil. So I did ask our students how many of them brought a pencil to school today, and I didn't get much of a reply. So hopefully on February 11th, we have a bit more. Our room utilization sheet, we are working to include all of our special ed students, our resource room students, our ICR students, and our LLD students within the 9th Grade Academy so that they understand just because of an IEP does not take the 9th grade experience away from them. So they are being infused within our regular classes. And then our scheduling season and when we kind of go into a war room or a draft room, if you guys can imagine an NFL draft room, that's essentially what my conference room turns into. And I lock Mr. Lapsley in there for about 5 months and tell him come out with something good at 95% by August. So that's kind of where we're at and where we're going. I know I spoke quick. Your time is valuable. I didn't see my 3 minutes up yet, so if anybody has any questions, comments, whatever it may be, feel free at this time.
I have a question. I know you talked about long-term plans, and I know it's kind of hard right now to imagine that, but for the 9th Grade Academy, what are the long-term plans regarding the program expansion and hiring? Because they're going to probably have to be more courses and things like that, right?
Yeah, so I did have a conversation with members of our central team, and I think it comes down to budget flexibility, right? There's a lot of uncertainty with Department of Education, federal funds, things like that right now. So I'm going to lean on our annual school plan initially as a see if it works, kind of as a pilot. Right now, we are living the pilot going into the 25-26 school year with no additional expenditures. So we'll be able to really take a deep dive and look at, is it worth it? If students are just skating by with D's and C's and we're not seeing the growth, we have to go back to the drawing board, and I'm not afraid to admit if something's failing, right? I did have a conversation with my APs today, and I said, we don't fail, and if we do start to fail, we just go back to the drawing board. And that's what education is. A lot of it is you're building the plane while you're flying it sometimes. So that is one thing that we will have to look at as far as staffing goes. Is the program successful, and is it sustainable long term?
Mr. Adams, thank you for your presentation. I do have a question. Other than budget, biggest challenge?
Getting everybody on board and on the same page. I think that is the biggest challenge. And when I say getting everybody on board, I mean our staff, our students. When we call parents and say, hey, listen, your child cannot take a Dance 1 because we really need their foundational reading to be better. So having that parental support, and then having the support of our board and our central administration. So I think really having everybody buy in is crucial. I was not at the high school when small learning communities was a thing, but people either loved it or hated it, right? So with my last faculty meeting, I said, you guys can love this or you can hate this, but it's happening. So I would much rather you be happy and ask me questions now than be upset and be the kid that's kicking and screaming because they didn't get the bubble gum in the line at ShopRite, right? I said, so the train has left the station on this, and it is going through. And I'm very open and honest with my staff. I'm very transparent with them. If they ask me a question, I tell them I don't have the brain capacity to lie because I just have too many things that go through my head, and about 2:30 I run out of words. I saved my words for today because we had a pep rally, so we're good. But I think me being transparent with my staff, and then my staff taking an honest effort. And then some staff members are going to have to be a part of it that don't want to, of the 9th grade academy, just based off of certificates at the high school level. But having their buy-in and having support, I think, is the biggest thing, and I will try that through just being transparent and honest with people when they ask questions.
Mr. Adams, if we make the change for September, are you in agreement that we have enough or adequate staff to make this change at this time?
As of right now, staffing should be good. Our class coming in, our junior class this year our current junior class was a massive freshman class, and our staff was stretched very thin. Right now, with our staffing, as long as we do not lose people through attrition and just not replace them because of budgetary constraints, I think we should be good. We have projecting 640 to 650-ish 9th graders. We don't know the full numbers until that other school across town lets us know how many kids they're taking. But once we do get those numbers, it'll be a more accurate projection of staffing. But as of right now, we should be able to staff classes with a cap of 24, with a max of 24 in those classes, and then the caps for resource, SLD, and ICR okay as of now.
Thank you. And then lastly, extracurricular activities. Would freshmen be, able to do what they're doing currently, or any restrictions on the extracurricular?
There are no restrictions outside of disciplinary or academic restrictions that we already have. So if a student wants to be a part of the football team, dance team, soccer team, swim team, whatever it may be, as long as they meet their NJSIA requirements, as long as they meet their GPA requirements, as long as they meet their credit requirements as a freshman, going into semester 2, if you want to play baseball, you need at least 15 passing credits at that time. Those requirements stay the same. The goal with this is to get more students involved. We have about 1,000 student athletes. We have about 1,000 students that are involved in extracurricular activities, whether it be dance, whether it be AFJ or OTC. Those students are our most successful students. So that narrative does not change. I want every student to be involved in something. Our volleyball club this year had about 200 kids turn out for it, and that is just a club. Several staff members have asked me about different clubs for next year, and that is from student interest. And the students know if they come to my office, Mr. Hall's office, Mr. Lapsley, Ms. Craig, if they come to us with a plan of, I want this club, just like they did with the volleyball club a handful of years ago, we will make it work as long as we can staff it, and we know that they are safe in the environment they're at.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I'd like to thank you and your team for your hard work. It was a great presentation, and for your teamwork and cooperation with central office in doing this. I know you guys are working as a team to do this, and I appreciate it, so thank you.
Absolutely. And I can't give my staff, Mr. Hall, Mr. Lapsley, and Mrs. Craig, enough credit. They are the backbone. They get all the credit.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. As you can see, there's been a lot of work put into the Ninth Grade Academy. Mr. Adams has been leading the charge with Suzette and Ish backing him up, along with the rest of our administrative team. So thank you for all your efforts. Thank you, Mr. Hall, Mr. Lapsley, for being here tonight. It takes a team to move this work forward, and I know Mr. Adams is really diving into the details, doing the work to get ready so we can launch in September. At this time, I would like to call up Mr. Mike Garcia of Fort Scott Associates, LLC, to present the 23-24 audit report.
Thank you. Just a brief reminder on the audit. The annual audit actually has two components. Obviously, a major component is looking at the financial numbers, but then we're also looking at the practices and procedures that the district employs to make sure that you're following the rules and regulations that the state and the federal government impose on all school districts. Whenever we find an area of error or exception, we're required to submit and write a finding and recommendation to the board for corrective action. I'm happy to inform everybody that there are no findings and recommendations, so it's a clean audit. Maybe give you a brief idea of some of the things that we're looking at, just as reminders, though. When we come in and do the audit procedures, we do review your cash accounts to make sure that they're properly reconciled and that the cash is in the proper bank account and that is in agreement with the board secretary's report that's submitted to the board for approval each and every month. We review the revenues to make sure your revenues are properly recorded, posted, and received. Obviously, your most significant revenue is state aid, but also the tax levy that you receive from the city, as well as other miscellaneous revenues. In the area of expenditures, we review payments of bills to make sure that when bills are paid, there's a proper invoice in the proper amount, that it's properly approved for purchase, that when the payment is made, it's charged to the proper budget line item, and that it's properly approved by the board. Also, certain expenditures are required to have a bid or a quote. We do testing to make sure that bids and quotes are received when appropriate. In the payroll area, we test employee salaries to make sure that they're being paid in accordance with the contracts and other agreements. We test the withholdings from employees' salaries to make sure that they're being properly remitted to either the pension, health insurance, or taxing agencies. Additionally, your employees are required to contribute towards a portion of their health insurance costs. There's a calculation that's required to be done. So we do tests to make sure that those withholdings from employee salaries are correct and the amounts are reimbursed back to the board's budget. Your food service fund. Your food service fund is a recipient of federal and state subsidies, so there's additional rules and regulations that go into that. So we do testing to make sure that you're following those areas properly. We do examine your annual report, enrollment report that goes to the state. That's known as the ASSA, the Application for State School Aid. It's basically a head count by grade, but the most important thing about it is your state aid is based on those numbers that are submitted to Trenton every October. So we do review those to make sure that they're done properly. There's a brief handout that everyone has, and the first thing, it's actually, if you go to the last page, is the first thing that I want to draw everyone's attention to. And this goes back to my original statement that there are no findings and recommendations. So the last page of this synopsis here basically gives you a summary of the various areas that we're looking at, and then also with the word none for findings and recommendations. So there are no findings and recommendations. Then if you roll forward one more page, you'll see I've highlighted in yellow the ending fund balance numbers. Does everyone see that? Just want to give you a recap of where the district ended up. We ended up the year with fund balance of $37,810,000. $870,831. But it's important to realize that the vast majority of that money is already, as we stand here, either spent or spoken for. I'm going to go through the categories that those funds are allocated, and that is in the little yellow box that I've highlighted. First, you have a maintenance reserve in the amount of $5.6 million. That money is set aside and can only be used for the repairs and maintenance of your facilities. You have a reserve for excess surplus. A quick reminder on excess surplus. The state imposes a 2% cap on school district surplus. Whenever you have funds that are greater than that 2%, that money gets set aside and must be used to fund the subsequent year's budget. So in this case, the first line, the reserve for excess surplus of $13,619,281.98, that money is in your bank today, but must be used to fund the 25-26 school year budget. Right below it, you'll see we have another excess surplus account that is hyphenated, designated for subsequent year's expenditure, $10,087,888. Those are funds that were in your bank at June 30th, 2024, that were the amount above 2% from the previous year. That money is now currently being used to fund this school year's budget, the 24-25 year. So that money is being spent as we speak to fund district operations. We also have a reserve for unemployment in the amount of $1,139,000, obviously for potential unemployment claims. You will see we have assigned fund balance for encumbrances in the amount of $1,694,050.20. That money is set aside to pay bills that related to the June 30th year that were not paid in cash by June 30th, which is a normal operating procedure that the vendors don't get all their paperwork in to get a check by June 30th. So the money is set aside. Once the bill goes through the proper payment process, it's dispersed. So those funds have now been dispersed towards those bills related to the 23-24 year. And then we have additional designated surplus that's designated for subsequent years' expenditures. And what this means, this $933,000 is in addition to the $10,087,000 that we spoke about previously as excess surplus. The board also contributed some undesignated funds on hand to fund this year's budget. Once again, this year I'm talking about 24-25. It leaves us with our unassigned fund balance in the amount of $4,777,206.03. That is your 2% number. That's the maximum amount that you're allowed to carry over from one year to the next. You know, it's good news that you have the full 2%, but when you look at your overall budget, you know, $4.7 million is not a huge amount of surplus, you know, to have, but it's the maximum that the state allows, and you do have that. Those are the items that I wanted to highlight. I feel that's the area that's most important for the board to be aware of, as well as the public. The full audit report itself is over, I think it's almost 200 pages long. I did hit the highlights, but of course, if there are any comments or questions on areas I didn't discuss that you would like me to cover, you know, I'm here for you. We good? All right.
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Musterell and his team for, because of you guys, we have these numbers, so thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my team as well, Shannon Carey, Kara Irvine, Dave Hart, and Millie Torres.
All right. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Ish Bermudez, Executive Director for Special Projects and Operations. He will provide a semi-annual HIB report.
Good evening, members of the board. So I'm just going to share our report for this reporting period of September 5th, 2024 through January 31st, 2025. Each of you should have a document that outlines the number of harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents that reported to each of our respective schools, the number of which were founded, and the number of which were founded. I'm going to just kind of review the total numbers so that we can kind of take a look at that together, and certainly if there's any questions, feel free. For school year 2425, again, during that reporting period, we had a total of 64 HIB incidents reported, 22 of which were founded, 42 of which were unfounded. That is compared to the same reporting period last year where there were 57 reports. So there was an increase this year, unfortunately, in the number of incidents that were reported. However, there were 28 founded instances, which is a decrease from last year, and then there were 29 that were unfounded last year. I had an opportunity earlier this week to also meet with all of the anti-bullying specialists at each of the respective buildings. I hosted a professional development opportunity for them to just review the HIB process as it relates to the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. We talked about our reporting mechanism, which is Hipster, and my assistant has actually scheduled an opportunity for us to meet with Hipster to really do a more comprehensive overview of the platform for the staff. And then, you know, all of the anti-bullying specialists work at each of their respective schools to work with students to provide programming that hopefully curbs those incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying within our schools. Any questions or concerns? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bermudez.
Are there any questions and comments on the HIB report? Approval of minutes. Are there any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono?
Yes to December 4th and January 8th. For January 15th, combined meeting and executive meeting, I was here for the executive session at the beginning of the meeting, but I was not here to vote, so I have to abstain from those.
Thank you. Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Perez?
Yes to all except December 4th. I was not on the board at that time.
You're abstaining then, to be clear. Thank you. Mr. Rivera?
On December 4th, item 5, the PLC grievance, I recuse myself from that one. Yes to the rest. On January 15th, number 3, item 3, I recuse myself from that one as well. Yes to the rest, and yes to the other meetings.
I don't think you're recusing yourself from the January 15th item.
Well, in that case, I will not recuse myself from the January 15th meeting.
So to be clear,
Misunderstanding on my behalf, yes.
to be clear, you're recusing yourself from item 5 on the December 4th?
Yes.
And that's the only,
That is correct.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Silva?
December 4th board meeting, the executive session, I have to recuse myself from item number 5. Yes to the rest. On the January 15 executive session, I have to recuse myself for item number 3. Yes to the rest. And yes to all the other reorg and combined meetings.
Thank you. Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mrs. Cottasbody?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Committee reports.
I
Mr.
apologize. Mr. Mustarella, can you just go back to Mr. Fiocchi, please? I think we might need to clarify his
You need me to
portion as well.
recuse?
Yes.
Mr.
Please.
Fiocchi?
On recuse on executive session for January 15th.
Is there a
Just that-
specific item number?
No, you're not recusing yourself from January 15th.
Not
You're
sure.
from December 4th.
Is that a
I stand
December
corrected. I will
4th?
recuse from December 4th executive session.
All of it, or just item 5?
Just item.
Item 5, yes. Yes for everything else.
Perfect.
Same as Mr. Rivera.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we'll have committee reports.
All right.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Thank you. Finance Committee met Tuesday, January 28th at 8 a.m. via Google Meet. In attendance was Mr. Mustarell, Mr. Yano, Ms. Carey, Mrs. Perez, Mr. Silva, and myself. Following topics were discussed. Still workshopping ideas for the $1.5 million SDA grant. Current RFPs being released. Lease for 1350 Southwest Boulevard, athletic field maintenance contract, substitute staffing services, data analysis contract. Facilities, ongoing HVAC issues, including equipment and personnel. Following personnel items were discussed. VHS building principal, assistant director of information technology, principal of Memorial, and technology coaches, 4 of them. There will be, the Village grants will subsidize their salary. Food service mid-year financial review, replacing refrigeration unit at VHS South. And lastly, 25-26 budget, ongoing efforts to submit a balanced budget. Thank you.
On Monday, January 27th, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met. Present were Mrs. DeMarchi, Superintendent Yano, Ms. Godalewski, Ms. Perez, Mr. Sabrana, Mr. Silva, and myself. We discussed the following topics: the 9th grade academy roundtable and financial literacy, the VHS course selection guide for 25-26 school year, summer reading planning for grades 6 to 12, with more information to follow, upcoming professional development, the Gifted and Talented program, the CTE Carnival, and special education updates. On Tuesday, January 28th, the Transportation Committee met. Present was Superintendent Yano, Mr. Bermudez, Mr. Mustarell, Ms. Mason, Mr. Rivera, Mr. Bono, Mr. Harris, and myself. Driver recap: 143 drivers budgeted, 140 route packages, which is drivers needed, 137 filled positions, 9 drivers on leave, 12 substitute drivers, and 4 drivers in training. Average absences in the morning, January 2025, is 20. Average absences in the afternoon for January 2025 is 23. We discussed the current number of open registrations and the number of registrations completed in January 2025. We reviewed our jointures and co-ops with other districts. We reviewed the number of accidents in December, which were 3, no injuries reported. We discussed personnel items that are still in progress. There's no new business regarding January events with the department, no new business regarding vehicles or the garage. And lastly, we discussed our conversations with Zonar and TransFinder to explore opportunities to improve the collection of ridership data and increase efficiency within the department. Thanks.
On Thursday, January 23rd at 4:30 p.m. via Google Meet, the Facilities Committee met. In attendance were Mr. Bono, Mr. Harris, Mr. Yano, Mr. Mustarell, Mr. Farinaccio, and myself. Discussed were the VHS campus signage. Chester signage is, they're both up and south and north is up and installed, and the final project, the project is being finalized. We also discussed the energy savings improvement plan. Among the items we discussed that are potentially under this plan are the makeup air and dehumidification units in Salvador del Lago and Petway, complete boiler replacement at Landis, energy management system replacement updates district-wide, LED lighting district-wide, insulation improvements district-wide, PC monitoring, and load control district-wide. The Landis sectional roof work was also discussed. Heating issues we were updated on by Mr. Farinaccio. Ongoing challenges exist with the aging buildings and the systems. VHS North, Mr. Farinaccio confirmed the HVAC units for the 4 wings will occur this summer, 2025. Also discussed with Hippolyta and Rossi HVAC equipment. Discussed was the SDA grant and emergent application, $1.5 million we received from the SDA. We're also looking out for additional grants, and we're going to be applying through the SDA. And technology overview, Mr. Farinaccio spoke on the current departmental objectives, which included the replacement hire for an Assistant Director of Information and Technology. This position will replace the former individual that was there. Cybersecurity enhancements are planning ongoing. Student technology planning is also being done to devices. And both technology and facilities budgets were recently reviewed by Mr. Yano, Mr. Mastrell, Mrs. Carey for the upcoming fiscal year.
Any other reports? Seeing none, do we have a public meeting report by the board solicitor?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Ms. Giuliani, would you like to come up?
Good evening. My name is Michaela Giuliani, and I am the senior class president at Vineland High School. Like always, VHS has been buzzing with activity. On January 16th, we held our 30th annual Mr. Vineland, a male pageant for the senior boys where 12 compete in various categories for the title. This year, we had 13 contestants, each of the 12 months as usual, and a Mr. Anniversary. Additionally, past Mr. Vineland contestants were honored amid the night's entertainment. After performing a heartwarming act with his father, Mason Afanador was crowned Mr. Vineland 2025. The 910 building has been busy this month, too. Throughout the last week of January, all VPS 8th grade students visited to see what was in store come September, as Mr. Adams mentioned. This week, freshmen and sophomore had the opportunity to attend an academic pep rally, and it was a hit. Everyone in the school has been raving about it, and I'm incredibly happy for the underclassmen who got to experience their first pep rally. Every year, in both buildings, the Tanner and Aselza Media Centers host African American read-ins, where students share Black literature, historic events, and notable individuals to celebrate Black History Month. As a history and literature buff myself, this is one of my favorite events all year. In other exciting news, VHS will invite our alumni to join us for a throwback dance on Saturday, February 22nd. Ticket orders can be processed by the Historical Committee Advisor, Christopher Mohan. The next couple of months are very exciting for VHS students, especially seniors, and I can't wait to keep you updated on everything going on. Next month, however, I am traveling and will not be able to attend the March meeting. In my stead, the junior class president, Chimobim Okafor, will be representing VHS. So I will see you in April. Thank you.
We have public comment on agenda items or any other matter. Please state your name and limit yourself to 3 minutes. Thank you. Mr. Mastrell, do we have any yellow sheets?
We do. Luz Vasquez.
Good evening, Luz Vasquez, community member from Vineland. A couple things. I sent a message to some of the board members that for the academy presentation, we were able to see on the board, and that was great. But it would be nice to kind of follow along with some of the highlights on the budget and even the HIB report. We just kind of listened to it, but we didn't really have anything to follow. So it's something that maybe you want to keep in mind for the next meeting. But the main purpose of me speaking today is concerning a memo that was brought to my attention in an email. The memo was dated January 23rd, and it was the subject, school-related state and federal requirements pertaining to immigrant students and families. A few things alarmed me about this memo. One is the timing. We all know the President of the United States was inaugurated January 20th. This is dated the 23rd. I'm not sure how valid any guidance could be given to the board when the President hasn't even had a chance to settle into his office, let alone establish some major changes with immigration. His agenda is set, yet I don't believe that anything happens in 2 days. So for this memo to be sent out with the timing, it caused two things. One, fear among those with mixed status in their families, and that should be a concern for everybody. Two, it caused outrage for those that feel that there may have been some political motive with this memo. For it to be sent out with this timing lends to question what the motive was for the timing of this memo, with guidance 2 days after the president was inaugurated. I just think that without accusing anybody of anything, I don't believe that was the intent of the board, but we really should take these matters into consideration, considering the sensitivity, the nature of this, and make sure that your board, it's discussed thoroughly, as well as run it through your solicitor to make sure that there's no inflammatory language when it comes to certain issues that are very sensitive, especially in this community. It just is just alarming that this went out, and it just names the president. I mean, you know, if you're not a fan of the president, you're really not a fan after this memo, and that concerns me, because I don't think that's the intent of really of any district, nor is it the place of any district to be taking a political position. I'm just saying that I think that we could have waited for some real guidance that is still being worked out as we speak, and I just think that we need to do a little better next time. Thank you.
Ms. Vasquez, if I can comment, my name is Sandra Grace. I'm actually the board solicitor, and I appreciate your input tonight. I just want to let you know that your considerations and input and feedback is absolutely heard by everybody here and the board. You know, I know that you mentioned that it should have gone under solicitor review. I can tell you that neither the board nor myself had input on the memo before it was parsed through, but we're absolutely going to be working through it and having internal discussions, you know, based on your feedback and any other feedback.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Justin Rogue.
Pronounced Roig. Hello, my name is Justin. I am a graduate of the Vineland Public Schools. I graduated in 2022. I'm currently a student at Temple University, here to speak today on the same memo. First of all, I would like to applaud Mr. Yano for affirming that we are going to protect students regardless of their citizenship or documentation status in this district. ICE has no place in our schools. If they're looking for criminals, they're not going to find them in the public schools. Let me also stress that ICE poses a risk to all of our students. The number of Puerto Rican people that have been apprehended and detained by ICE in the past 2 weeks since Donald Trump's executive order has been put in place has only gone up since ICE was founded in the early 2000s. A majority of this district is now Hispanic or Latino. ICE is not looking for people who are just, oh, we think they're undocumented. They're actively engaging in racial profiling. We saw that with the veteran that was detained in Newark. We saw that with a Puerto Rican family that was detained in Milwaukee. We saw that with a Puerto Rican restaurant that was almost raided in Philadelphia because they thought there would be undocumented people here. We are at a dangerous time in our country where people are being referred to as illegal, and people look illegal, or our proximity to looking illegal is enough to be stopped in the street, it's enough to be detained, it's enough to have a business raided, and now churches are allowed to be raided, schools are allowed to be raided. We are at a very dangerous time where they're targeting children. They want to use private information, be it from immigration attorneys, be it from the school district archives or files, to try and get information on families that they wish to detain, that they essentially wish to kidnap. All of the children in Vineland, regardless of where they were born, where their parents are born, are entitled to have an education free from the anxiety that their school district might hand over information of where they were born or where their parents were born. They have the right to not have to deal with the anxiety that their friends or family members might be detained within the schools, or that the school district will hand over information that could lead to them being detained when they get home. That is why I'm calling on the Board of Education to support the state guidelines of not letting ICE within the schools, and if ICE wants to go in, they can go to the superintendent. But you have a duty to protect all of the students within this school district, no matter where they were born, no matter whether they're a citizen of this country. You better keep to that job, because we're going to keep you accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just as a further comment, the board and the district as a whole has every intention to follow federal regulations, federal law, federal guidelines as it relates to anything, in, whether it be this matter or any other matter. In addition to following its policy, its existing policy, 9320, in terms of cooperation with law enforcement agencies that's existed. Thank you.
Jose Barrero. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Good evening, school board. My name is Josue Barrero. I am here tonight both as an educator and a parent of a child in the district. I'm here to speak on the same issue Justin and the previous lady spoke on. I believe it's an urgent issue, the safety and security of our students. In light of the recent changes, I know it was brought up, changes haven't been made. The first day of office, Department of Homeland had a longstanding policy that ICE is not allowed in schools. That policy has now been since rescinded. We have reports of ICE trying to get in schools. I know firsthand from my child's friends that kids are scared. They hear the news, they see what's happening, and they wonder if their families will be safe. Their fear is not unfounded. I have spoken with teachers in other districts, specifically in Livingston, New Jersey, and in Newark, New Jersey, where there was 2 separate verified accounts of ICE trying to access those schools. With the recent rescinding of DHA's policy that once provided protections, we know that this is no longer just a hypothetical concern. It's real and it is happening. I am grateful that the New Jersey State Board of Education has issued guidance to help protect our students and their families. Our state is doing what's right for kids, but I want to know, what is our district doing? Does the district have plans to implement the state's guidelines? The state issued about a little over 24 suggestions that school districts should follow. Namely, will staff be trained to identify the difference between a judicial warrant and an administrative one? Will students and families be given access to know your rights information so they can protect themselves? Or what ways does this district plan to implement the guidelines from the state? I don't see this as a political issue. I don't want to turn this into a debate about immigration policy. I do not believe this is the forum for that. What this is about making sure every child in our schools can focus on learning and not living in fears. Schools should be places of safety, not uncertainty. I ask this board to take action to ensure that our district is not caught unprepared and that every family knows where this district stands. Thank you for your time.
Jean-Marc Grussemeyer.
Good evening. My name is Jean-Marc Grussemeyer. I am a history teacher at Vineland High South. Members of the Board of Education, Mr. Yano, thank you for allowing me to present you some thoughts and concerns regarding the same letter that everybody else has apparently been addressing. I and my fellow educators are fully committed to teaching and caring for our students each day, making sure that every student feels safe and comfortable in our classrooms. However, the involvement of our students or their families with the legal system, whether it be local police or federal immigration agents, does not fall within the purview of our role in their lives. It would certainly be inappropriate, if not downright illegal, to attempt to interpose ourselves between our students or their families and law enforcement for any reason. It was thus with alarm that I read the contents of Mr. Yano's letter, which seemed to suggest that we ought to walk as close to line as possible in protecting students from federal immigration agents carrying out their lawful duties. We are working as teachers. We should not be on the lookout for ICE agents in order to quickly inform administration. Nor should we be spending valuable time and resources on extra training in order to prepare for a possible visit from ICE, especially when we already have policies and procedures in place whenever law enforcement comes to the school to speak with students or take them into custody. To suggest that we bear a responsibility to in any way place ourselves between students and federal law enforcement puts an unreasonable and dubiously legal burden upon us as educators, when our job is simply to educate the children in our classrooms to the best of our ability. The letters to staff and administrators also reveal distinct bias against the agenda of the current presidential administration, which I likewise find to be unnecessary and unwise. Our staff members reflect a variety of political beliefs, and from an electoral standpoint, there is a very good chance that at least half of the employees in the district support this administration's policy goals. To send such a letter invites division among the staff, when quality education, not politics, should be our sole focus once we enter the building. The tone and content of the letter seem to imply that we educators all come from or agree with leftist politics when it comes to important topics like immigration, which I assure you is far from the truth. It makes staff members with more conservative beliefs feel ostracized and silenced, a lamentable state of affairs that has become the status quo in much of the educational world. To conclude, I would implore Mr. Yano and the Board of Education to reconsider sending the sorts of communications that can seem so politically charged. Clarify your intentions and set our minds at ease regarding our proper role as educators rather than as activists against the endeavors of federal law enforcement. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Chris Wilson.
Good evening, Board. Chris Wilson, CEO of Sound Mind, Sound Body, also Chairman of the County Recreation Commission. We have about 300 kids in our program. Maybe close to 50% of them are Hispanic. We had a lot of parents that expressed gratitude in the letter that was sent, that they received. I don't know where the political motivation is or why someone or people would think that. I would like to applaud the superintendent for sending this letter out. Not only did it allow our parents to see and be prepared for possible ICE interventions, it really was thankful on their behalf. I'm boots on the ground. I see these kids every day. I don't know how many people in this crowd are in the trenches, but I know the kids. I see the kids. I see the kids, and they're with me. We have parent and child yoga programs that we do with the children with Sound Mind, and these parents have bought into us and expressed their concern on things. So I will leave with this word of advice that I was told when I was about 12 years old from my grandfather. Everybody has a little piece of God in them, no matter how evil, no matter how kind. Everybody has a little piece of God in them. You search for that piece in that person, and you speak to it. Now, what we always got to ask ourselves is, make sure you have that little piece of God in you before you speak to them. Thank you.
Shirley Santos.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Santos. I'm a resident of Vineland and a retired educator from Vineland Public Schools, and of course, a proud grandma of 2 Vineland Public School students. I wanted to talk about the recent directive that permits ICE agents to enter educational campuses, churches, and other sensitive areas that were previously off limits. I can imagine that this has created additional stress for our schools, which are already facing numerous challenges. Many superintendents across New Jersey, probably you've seen it in the news and various reports, have communicated with staff, parents, and the community to ensure that families feel safe. In their communications, they have established clear protocols to protect the rights of every member of the school community and emphasize that schools are safe spaces for all children. I am pleased to see that our superintendent, Mr. Jano, has taken similar actions. I'm very grateful for his timely statement to parents in our district, much like Dr. Gruccio did back in 2017. Okay? At that time, a group of community members, parents and students from the group Bridges, which I am part of, approached her with concerns regarding ICE activity in schools. All those schools at that time were still designated as sensitive areas that were protected from ICE intervention. This board passed, or the board at the time, passed a resolution reaffirming Vineland Public Schools' commitment to providing a safe and secure environment for our staff and students, while also offering information and resources for our families. It is encouraging to see some of the work we did back then reflected in the latest state guidelines shared with the New Jersey schools due to this unprecedented federal action. I truly believe that no student should have to carry the weight of fear while trying to learn. We must do everything we can to ensure that our counselors and social workers have the resources to help students. Teachers and staff also cope with the situation. I thank you, Mr. Jano, for acknowledging and not minimizing the potential anxiety surrounding immigration issues while assuring the community that the school is committed to supporting all students. I recognize that at times we can be dismissive of other experiences from our position of privilege. I appreciate that you empathized with those affected and displayed the fortitude and common sense to do what is right for our students and families. I want to conclude by stating that I'm here in support of all of our students and families, especially those who may not be able to speak today and are directly impacted by these unprecedented circumstances. As you can see, there are others here tonight. We stand united and ready to help Vineland Public Schools help our kids, our staff, and families feel safe and protected. Thank you so much.
Maria LeBoy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria LeBoy, a former educator here in the public schools for like 32 years. I started as an ESL teacher in the bilingual program, and then I was a coordinator of special programs. I want to hats off to the high school who has the freshman academy, because when I worked as a supervisor, I supervised a lot of programs for underrepresented students. So I want to thank you, because really they all needed it. They all needed that extra help. So I'm glad that you're doing that for them. When I retired, well, I became involved in a group, as Shirley Santos just said, Bridges. We were all very concerned about the situation in the communities across the nation. And yes, we did speak. We had a number of meetings with Mary Gruccio, and she later sent a letter out to the parents letting them know that their children would be safe, and telling everybody in the schools that if ICE came, that they would send them to the main office. And I'm so happy that Mr. Jano did the same thing, because it worked out just, it allayed the fears of so many parents and their students, because as you know, it's hard to learn on an empty stomach, so we give them food. It's hard to learn when you haven't slept very much, so we encourage parents to put their kids to bed early at night. Well, let me tell you something. Trying to learn with all that stress on you, I mean, stress is even worse than being hungry or having lack of sleep. The stress and anxiety that you're going to go home and not find a parent there, or the stress and anxiety that somebody might come to the school and take you away. And those are actually real life feelings for these kids. So thank you very much, because I believe that you, just like Mary did back then, allayed the feelings of many of those students and parents which I'm very happy to hear. And to Luce, a former speaker, everyone knew because the president didn't, even before he became president, he said he was going to do it. So it wasn't a surprise that he wrote an executive order that day. So, and I'm not here to talk politics. We all know what happened, and we all know what's happening now. And like was mentioned before, a lot of Puerto Ricans have been taken in. When I went to Puerto Rico one time, to Mexico one time, on a school trip for a conference, and on the way back, they stopped the car at the border, and they wanted to leave me there. And I said, no, everybody in the car was saying the same thing. No, she's with us, she's with us. Why? Because I looked the part. My face was a Latina face. Everybody else in the car was not Latino. So they thought they were trying to take somebody across the border. So thank God, I came back. But the same thing happened to my mother years later. But I want to thank you all and think about, what you're doing, when you're doing it. And as Shirley said, please go along with what is going on in the state. To try to, if anybody comes in, and to the gentleman who had fears about his teachers, how are they going to, they're not supposed to be dealing with ICE. Well, they're not even going to get to you. If rules are followed, like to get to the main office, they are sent to the superintendent of schools. Why does that have to, teachers do not have to deal with them. So I want to thank you again, Mr. Janos, and thank you all, Board of Education, for having our backs throughout this. Thank you.
Joanne Brown.
Hello, good evening. I'm standing in. My name is Amatula Maxey. I'm here speaking on behalf of the bus attendants. It's been a very challenging school year, and we're in charge of the safe transportation of the kids between school and home, and we do the same work as the classroom assistants, and we're the lowest paid in the district, and we're asking for a raise in pay. We're the lowest, like I said, we're the lowest paid, and we do just as much work as the bus drivers. And minimum wage is not fair for the work that we do and the dedication we put in our district. So we just would like you to take this into consideration. I have a list of the bus drivers who couldn't make it and the ones who are here, if you would like a copy of it. The bus aides. Okay, thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Yano, do you have any motions and resolutions?
Yes, we're going to get into our motions and resolutions. At this time, I would like to request discussion and approval of personnel items 1.1 through 1.2.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Perez. Mrs. Perez, I'm sorry.
It's okay, yes.
Mr. Rivera.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana.
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, I would like to congratulate and call up to the microphone Mr. Masonette, the new VHS CELTA building principal.
Good evening. Good evening. Funny story. When I was thinking about coming here today and told my family I had to come here, my daughter asked me if I was getting inaugurated or winning a Grammy. So I told her it was neither. But I am very grateful for the opportunity. Take a moment to thank my wife, Ashley, and my daughters, Ariana, Abigail, and Amelia. Also my colleagues that came today, Pup, Ms. Washenik, and everybody else here today. And also I want to thank the board, for trusting me with this position, Mr. Yano, for the support. I'm a proud Vineland graduate, and I'm looking forward to making Vineland High the best school in New Jersey and in the country if that's possible. So, and with your support, I believe we can do it. And I know it's a lot of work, and I'm ready for the work, and I'm excited for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I also would like to congratulate Jacqueline Mangaluso, who will now be the principal of Memorial School. Please come on up.
I would just like to say thank you, Mr. Yano, and members of the Board of Education for putting your faith in me. It is always bittersweet. I absolutely love Petway Elementary, but I started in secondary, and I also love the challenges that are ahead for Memorial. I actually grew up about 6 blocks away from Memorial School and grew up playing softball on those fields, and probably was in that building when I shouldn't have been in the building, but watching plays, playing, hanging out with my friends, and I really want the building to continue to be a community school, and a place for our kids to grow and learn. And side note too, I'm also super proud. I'm born and raised in Vineland High School graduate, and I'm so proud to see our community come out for and against whatever it may be, but that we are able to come together to speak our minds and do it peacefully. I'm super proud to say that I am from Vineland and to see what I saw tonight. So thank you again, and I look forward to the challenges ahead. Thank you.
And next, I would like to introduce our newest assistant principal at Wallace Middle School, Shannon Enders. Let's have a big round of applause to Shannon. Thank you for joining the team. Dr. Speakman, Dr. Speakman and Mr. Masonette, if you can introduce yourselves as the Vassar reps to Shannon. I know you're on it. Thank you. Next, I'd like to request discussion and approval of procedures and operations items 2.1 through 2.5.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Requesting discussion and approval of finance items 4.1 through 4.21.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
I will have to recuse from the following. You ready? It's a few.
Hold, please.
Get the pencil ready.
I'm ready for you.
Okay. 4.15, 4.16, 4.17, 4.18, 4.19. Yes on the remaining items.
Is that it?
Yeah, for now.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes to all of them.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti?
Yes.
Motion carries.
There are no regular agenda items, no proposed items for review or discussion or adoption by the board members. Are there any questions or comments for the itemized bills? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bono?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mrs. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti?
Yes.
Motion carries.
There are no emergent items. Old business, new business, board member and superintendent remarks. I'm going to start with Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes, good evening. I just would like to congratulate Mr. Masonette, Mrs. Mongaluzzo, and Mrs. Enders as well. Wish you all the best of luck. Thank you and have a good evening.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes, I'd like to also congratulate Mr. Masonette and Mrs. Mongaluzzo on your well-deserved promotions. These are two proven leaders, and I'm glad that they'll be continuing their work in different capacities. Welcome, Ms. Enders, to the Vineland Public Schools District. Thank you for everyone that spoke tonight.
Bono.
I'd like to congratulate all the promotions in our district and wish you guys the best of luck in your new positions. We look forward to working with you and helping provide you with the tools you need to keep succeeding within our district. Very proud of you. And to our newest member of the team, thank you so much. Heard you did a wonderful job in your interview, and you're a strong applicant. So I hope you're a true leader for our district. Thank you. Just a few notes from me. It was another very busy month. I was part of and attended a very successful and well-attended fundraising event here at Landis School for the Pasta and Meatballs Cook-Off fundraiser for our scholarship program. What a great event it was. We would have loved to see another 200, 300, maybe 400 people here. With as many district employees we have, I want to see more the next time we do this. But it was an awesome event. Mrs. Speakman, Mr. Mustarell, Principal, Principal Mongaluzzo, sorry, a little tongue twisted there. I should know that pretty well, right? Yeah, it was great competition, friendly competition, and we were supported by our head here with our culinary division, who supplied us with al dente pasta, which is a big one. So shout out to Pravesh. And a big thank you to the junior police explorers that helped volunteer and help man our tables to serve the attendees. These kids always come out, no matter what they're asked. They're always out. Same thing with the RC, or the ROTC, thank you. Sorry, tongue twister there. But these students, they always come out for us and support our events. And it's a great showing to our district. Very proud of these kids. I'd like to wish the VHS girls swim team good luck tomorrow evening. We have a home playoff meet for the first round. It's home here at the Tanner Building at the Casadia Pool. Starts at 5 o'clock versus Kingsway. These girls work so hard. Early morning practices, late practices, swim meets. If you're around, you have nothing to do, it's a great event. Come watch the swim meet and support them for the first round of the playoffs in Group 4. I'd also like to let you know I attended my first academic pep rally. I've attended many pep rallies over the years, but never an academic pep rally. And I wasn't sure what to expect at first, but it was a well-ran event, a great showing from the freshmen there at the Tanner Building. It was led by Principal Adams, Principal Hall, Principal Lapsley, all their staff. My favorite all-time coach, Coach DeShields. You know, he was like the MC of the event. But what an amazing job they did celebrating the academics of the students. Faculty and staff, they were all there in attendance. And they just celebrated the year's positivity and change. And the direction of the ninth grade experience is heading for some great times, as we all learned tonight with the Freshman Academy presentation. Some of the highlights were the junior Air Force ROTC students. They rocked the house. They were there. They were bringing the spirit. Also, the VHS marching band and cheerleaders, they were there to hype the crowd up and get students, involved. So again, a good shout out to Principal Adams AP Mr. Hall, Mr. Lapsley, and of course, Coach DeShields. It was a great event that helped build on school spirit and VHS pride. Lastly, I'd like to thank everyone that come out tonight to talk about this hot topic that we're all dealing with. Being informed is key, and when decisions like this go out to, I like to say, a company, we're 16 schools, many, many, many employees, us as a board, us as administration, we have a responsibility to everyone in the district. And some things I believe should be researched and discussed prior to hitting an entire district before they hit the streets and before they get out to a staff. And as the CEO of a business, I like to say, you know, Mr. Yano, he's the CEO of our district. He is the superintendent of our district. I feel that he spoke for everyone here at this table, at this board, instead of getting our opinions and you know, referring to our solicitor, board solicitor. It's a very sensitive, hot topic, and it should not be a political issue. It doesn't matter which way you lean, left or right. It is about the safety of our students. We do have policies and procedures already in place and have been in place for years. I just feel that it should have been discussed with the board prior to being sent out to the entire district, to the parents, to the families, because of the sensitivity of the topic. Thank you for listening, and thank you again for, you know, letting us know your side of the story, because it all matters and it does help when it comes to decisions like this and the safety of our children in these schools. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about: education and our children in Vineland Public Schools. Thank you.
Ms. Perez.
Thank you. Huge congratulations to the promotions, and I know you're, from what I hear, I may be one of the newer members here, but from what I hear, you're going to do a fantastic job. You would not have been promoted otherwise. And to our new hire, we're looking forward to working with you. I want to echo a lot of the comments that were said here already. I appreciate each and every person who came up and spoke. It is not easy to come up to a forum like this and to speak and to give your opinion, because you don't know what the audience, whether they agree with you or don't agree with you. It takes courage. And I appreciate each and every one of you who came up and spoke in agreement or disagreement to the memo. It takes our whole community to come forward and to give their opinions and to be involved and to get down in the trenches and to help us be a better board. So I just wanted to say I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for your input, and have a good evening and be safe. I don't know if it's icy out there yet.
Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the students from Wallace and Barcy that led us in the flag salute. Thank you for the presentations. I'm particularly excited about the 9th grade academy. I believe it's going to be a game changer, and it's going to be something that this district is going to benefit from years to come. It's good that we're trying new things. It's good that we're trying new ideas to try to revitalize the school district and kind of get our students excited about going to school and learning, and I'm all for it. Congratulations to our new hires, Ms. Enders, Mrs. Mangaluzzo, congratulations on your promotion to Memorial. Rafael, congratulations on your promotion to Vineland High School. I've known Rafael for many years. I don't know how he became a principal, but he has worked hard and he has worked his way up, and he is definitely deserving of this promotion. He's going to do a great job, and I believe that Vineland High School has blessed and many more years of greatness to come under his leadership. No pressure. Thank you to all the community members that spoke. It's a topic that we can't escape. Wherever we are in society, wherever we go, it's coming up, right? I think as a society, we can all agree, no matter what side you may be on in the argument, right or wrong. I think as a society we can all agree that it is our duty as human beings to kind of protect and shield the most vulnerable in our society. And it doesn't get more vulnerable than our children and our kids. These kids didn't have a say where they were born. They didn't have a say who their parents were. But they're kids, and they are under our care for the hours that they're in our buildings. I think that our responsibility, and this is not we're going to go against this authority or that authority. I think our responsibility as human beings is that when our children are in our care, in our buildings, that we make it, that there would be a distraction to the reality that many of those kids are living today. It is very hard to put yourself in that situation if you're not experiencing that situation. I cannot imagine myself living in that type of environment or that type of reality. But for our kids, they're not at fault. They have nothing to say about it. They are kids. And if we can be a distraction from all of that, I don't care what side of the aisle, what side of the argument you are, I think we can all agree, and I think this board can all agree, that our priority should be to educate our kids, and as long as they're in our buildings, that they feel safe, they feel protected, and that they're not at fault of what's going on. That's a totally different conversation we can have outside of this environment, outside of this setting. Who you think is right, who you think is wrong. But one thing is that our kids are not wrong. Our kids are not at fault. So I think we should be compassionate and have empathy towards their reality. And I think our board as a whole, I believe, wants to protect our kids from that noise, from that reality that they're going through. So I'm confident that we will do that. And that's all I have to say. Have a good night, and thank you.
Mr. Harris?
It's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, it usually is.
I wanted to thank the children that led us in the flag salute. I want to say congratulations on the promotions. I'm new here, but I wish you both the best. Congratulations on the new hire. If you need anything from me, if I can help, let me know. I want to thank the speakers that came forward. I listened to their concerns. I heard them. If there's anything I can do to alleviate the fears, I'll do everything I can. I do know that the school has policies in place that I think will answer most people's questions if they read the policies as to when law enforcement can come into the schools and when they can't. There is a policy. When I was a police officer, there was a memorandum of agreement that spelled out when law enforcement can come into a school and when they can't, and how they can come in and how they can't, whether they need a warrant or they didn't need a warrant. So I won't get too far into that. I just think that folks could read the policy and that would alleviate some more of their fears. I think it's in line with the state guidelines and the federal guidelines. So I want to thank everybody who came forward. I'll take my last moment. I wanted to say happy birthday to my mentor who's not here. I hope he's watching. He's a former board member and a captain, Tom Ulrich. He couldn't make it. So Cap, if you're watching, happy birthday. His birthday's on the 9th, and go Birds. Thank you.
Mr. Silva?
Yes, I'd like to commend and congratulate the new hire, Ms. Enders. Welcome to our district. Mr. Masonette, Ms. Manjaluzzo, congratulations on your promotion. I know you guys will do really, really well. I also would like to tell Mr. Rivera the reason why he became a principal is because he graduated from the best class, which is 1999 Vineland High School. So I just wanted to shout out my class, 1999. That's one of the reasons why I think that he will do a great job. Besides that, that's all I have to say, but thank you guys, and you guys have a great night.
Mr. Sabrana?
Thank you to our flag saluters. Love seeing kids here. Congratulations to our new hires, Mr. Masonette, Hugo, Ms. Enders, and Ms. Mongaluzzo, who is living proof that you can go home again. I know there were a lot of tears at Petway the other day when they heard the news, but that's going to be a big win for Memorial, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the great things that are happening there. I just want to say one other thing. I've been sitting here thinking about it for the last 10 minutes while Mr. Rivera gave his usual passionate speech. I walked in the front door at Reber School on a really cold night in March 1995. And for the next 20 years after that, sometimes 14, 15 hours a day, I roamed the buildings of this district talking to our staff, parents, and a lot of kids. And I don't remember one time talking to one person who took a paycheck from this place, who wasn't absolutely passionate and committed to protecting our kids every single day. They didn't need to be told that, they didn't need to be reminded, and they didn't need to have anybody quote law to them. They believed in it, and I believed in it as well. Our mission always was safety and efficiency and achievement, SEA, and it still is now. And in the last 10 years, I've sat up here with people like you see sitting here tonight. I know they feel the same way, because to do this is not easy. And it is there's a job that you get thanks, but it's not an easy one. And there are a lot of days when you say, why am I doing this for free? Because we care. And we're going to be sure that whatever happens, that to the limit of the law, which we will follow the way we're supposed to, we are going to make sure those kids go home safe every day, no matter what. Thank you.
Mr. Yano?
Thank you. Thank you. We had a wonderful event last week for Vineland Education Foundation. Thank you to our participants, Mr. Bono, Dr. Speakman, Jackie Mongaluso, Mr. Mustarell. It was a great night. It was a kickoff for the Vineland Education Foundation, which has not had many events in the past. It was one of those charges that was placed, before me when I arrived in the district, is to relaunch the VEF, and a few of our board members have participated and helped bring that VEF back to life. We have great plans as we move forward, and all of the funds that are generated by the Vineland Education Foundation will go to support teachers and students in our school district with scholarships and innovation grants. It's going to be wonderful as we continue to showcase what our school district can do. We have a great event tomorrow, although now the timeline got changed a little bit. Our Starfish event is tomorrow, and we're going to be busy celebrating our students and our staff members here at Landis. Our CTE event is coming up at the high school at the end of this month. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I encourage all of our board members to participate. Many came last year, and it was excellent. So I encourage you to be a part of it this year, just to see what our high school has to offer. We want to make sure that, I also had the opportunity yesterday to participate in the Scholastic Literacy Summit as a panelist representing Vineland Public Schools, sharing all of the amazing work that we're doing around structured literacy, the science of reading, the work that our teachers and our administrators are doing in the field, and also the work that we're doing at the secondary level as we switch into new courses, close read and Socratic seminar. This community, the Scholastic organization, wanted me to share what we're doing. So I was in front of 200 superintendents and CEOs from across the United States, and it was an amazing experience to be able to share what we do well here in Vineland and to celebrate our students, our staff, and our administrators. I also want to take a moment, since it was brought up here in public, about the timing of memos that go out to the community or to our administration. Every week we receive broadcasts from the Department of Education. Those broadcasts are alerts to take action on specific areas. There was an alert that came by recently, well, not recently, last year, that said all 11th graders need to take the FAFSA. You know, it's one of the new requirements, an unfunded mandate. So we send information to the high school puts information into place so that their high school students, their juniors, can actually take the FAFSA. So these digests come out, these broadcasts come out weekly, and there are specific things that we need to do as local education agencies and the leads for those departments. On January 22nd, a digest came out reporting on guidance to school-related state and federal requirements pertaining to immigrant students and families. So I read that guidance, and I said, this community needs to be aware of what's going on. But it wasn't a new conversation. We've been having this conversation for months and years in a school district such as Vineland, where we have students from diverse backgrounds. So what I put out is exactly what the broadcast announced that all schools in the state of New Jersey are expected to follow, and I did not add any new language, freestyle, put different words in there. I took the language that was in there. I understand it's a hot topic, but it's one that we have to address head on. It's uncomfortable, but we need to be there for our students and support our families, as has been mentioned here multiple times. I also want to note that our staff memo specifically said, if you see something, refer to administration. Administrators who are here, they know that who are they going to call if something happens in their school that they need to be aware of. They're going to call me so we can all be on the same page of how to proceed. My phone call is to the solicitor to make sure that we're following the law properly. I also want to note that policy 9320, as stated today, does not apply to federal law enforcement. That is specific to local law enforcement because it speaks to the memorandum of agreement between local law enforcement and the school district. So it's very clear about what that covers. So there's some gray areas that we need to be all on the same page. The guidance was put out there to help us all kind of focus on what's important, and that's our students. Today, yesterday, last week, we have kids who are scared. They're worried. You may not know that from where we sit, but we get those phone calls. We have administrators telling us about situations where students are scared. They need support. What do we do with them? We work with Dean Rodolfo, send them to guidance. Guidance works with the students. It's all very clear how we respond, but there have been some changes, and there will be more changes probably. We will adjust our approach, and it's out of respect. All that I have put out is out of respect for the community. Nothing was meant to be disrespectful or any encouragement to defy any type of law enforcement. That's false. There's a false narrative being put out there that that's what I'm advocating for, and that is not the case at all. I'm asking to comply with the law to make sure we are supporting our students. Our administrators who I've met with, we talked about it, we're all on the same page as far as what happens. The guidance is clear. And I just wanted to put that out on the record that I'm here to support our community and to work with our Board of Education and my central office team and our high school administration, our middle school administration, our elementary administration, our preschool babies. It is a wide range of beautiful children that we work with, that we support, and we want them to be safe and feel comfortable. So I ask that everyone give us a little grace and give me some grace in this time of challenging times for our families. Because we are looking to do what's right for our community, and I understand there's different opinions, but also we have to safeguard what we're doing, and we have to system check. So I will be collaborating and discussing with our board this evening about, next steps, if any, of what we need to do to clarify what's been put out, because I'm all about communication, and I know this board is committed to that, and I love the dissenting ideas, the opposing viewpoints, because Mr. Adams can tell you, he and I, we talked a lot about Ninth Grade Academy. We weren't always on the same page, right, Justin? But in the end, we get to a great place, and look at the presentation. It's through that discussion and input of various ideas and thoughts that we come out with a better product in the end. So I encourage that, and I appreciate everyone who came out this evening. Thank you.
I just want to thank our students who did come out from Barcy and Wallace for our flag salute. Mr. Adams, Mr. Marchi, Mr. Bermudez, Mr. Adams' team, thank you for the great presentation. It's answered some of my questions, but I'm sure the board, we're still going to have a whole lot more for you. It's a work in progress, but it looks really good, and it's like Mr. Rivera said, it's something different and something maybe that the district needs, but again, it's a work in progress. To everyone who come out and spoke tonight, thank you. There are a wide range of opinions. That to being said, there's a wide range of opinions on the board. At no point will we never not protect our students, but we will follow state and federal guidelines. I am going to suggest that the policy that Mr. Harris spoke of and that do protect our students be put on front page of the website so it's easily accessed so people can view it and see it. I did get the opportunity to go to the Mr. Vineland pageant contest. I don't know what it was, but I got to judge it. It was wonderful. Congratulations to Mr. Afanador. He was wonderful. They were all wonderful. It was very hard to choose. These kids just put their hearts and souls into that contest, and it was really great. I really didn't know who was going to win up until the final five. I was really not sure. Mr. Masonette, congratulations. Mrs. Mongaluso, congratulations. Ms. Enders, welcome. If there's ever anything we can do for you as a board, just let us know. We're excited for the changes and the possibilities. I know Mr. Masonette and Mr. Adams are going to work very well together. I know it's a teamwork, and that's a work in progress for everybody. On a final note, I know it's Eagle Country. However, I need to say, good luck, Isaiah Pacheco. You're still our heart and soul. You know, you're represent us well. You have represented us well. So I'm going to be still rooting for you, even if I'm in a room full of Eagles fans. But I want him to do well, and he has proven that. So good luck, Isaiah. Good luck, Eagles. Good luck, Chiefs. And with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?